We got it.
Prepare the live stream.
So we're good to go.
Yeah, except that I'm not up yet.
Okay.
And now we are. We're live.
All right. Are we ready to kick it off then, Blair?
Yep, good to go.
Okay. All right, you guys, welcome to tonight's BDE. We are going to be on episode 357, which is pretty cool. Before we get going, just a couple of announcements. If you have not got your hands on Blair's Insider Notes, that's something that we definitely recommend that you do. We cover as much as we can on our Tuesday nights when the 90-minute block. But there's also a lot that we don't get to because we go where the conversation goes. We like it to be experiential. So if you would like to get access to all historical and ongoing notes from the Blair Dunkley experience, so you can go deeper, you can have a refresh. You can get those at blairdunkley.com/BDE dash insider notes. And the investment there is $25 a month or $300 a year. And it starts at 318. We're on episode, what did I say? 357. So that's 39 weeks. 39 weeks, you guys, of extra material. So definitely, if you're loving what mind models are doing for you, or if this is your first time experiencing it with us, we definitely recommend that you make that investment because it can definitely enhance your learning. The other announcement is Blair has got his Mind Model Mastery Secrets podcast. He's got 2 episodes up currently, and then the intention is to drop two weekly, typically like on a Monday or Thursday. And so you can again get more mind models. Can hear him working with other people who've experienced it, who've been using them to work through different challenges and find different successes. And you can go to mindmodelmastery.podbean.com to be able to access that. And then Blair. Did you by chance have that link for that complimentary profile session that you are offering for a limited time?
You know what? I will put that in here, and it is a complimentary thing that you can go to LinkedIn and just message me through LinkedIn because it's on my banner in LinkedIn, a free 45-minute complimentary profiling session. But I will give you my LinkedIn account as well in a moment. I just
Okay.
need to change, work on a different screen here for a second and go to my LinkedIn. And I will put that in the chat unless you've already done it.
I have not. I didn't
Okay,
see it.
no worries. I'm working on it right now.
Okay.
So just to share with you,
Well, while you're working on that, I'll go ahead and roll into the intro. You can pop in the chat, and then we'll make sure
I
that we cap.
am doing that as we speak because I actually
Okay.
got it here. So chat. There we go. And that's the freebie.
Beautiful.
And I am going to put it on. Um, I have for some reason my chat up here too. Okay, so go ahead.
All right. So that if you want access to a complimentary 45-minute profiling session with Blair, which is a massive gift, you guys, you can go to www.linkedin.com/in/Blair Dunkley one. Again, we're going to drop it in the chat here for those who are on this call. They can grab it. If you guys are out there on YouTube, if you to that, see if we can drop that in the comments. That way
I
you can
am.
click.
I'm doing that as we speak.
Hey, Blair's got you. He's going to put that in the comments, so you can go ahead and click on that as well. All right. So, you guys, 357th episode. You guys, we almost like 365 days in a year. We almost have many episodes. Blair's in almost as many episodes as there are days in a year, which is really cool. And this is where we have an opportunity to discuss mind models. Mind models are a collection of extensively tested thought frameworks, skills, and behaviors that enable people to transform their lives intentionally. Your host for this evening is Blair Dunkley, the creator of Mind Models. And he's working away to make sure that those of you out in YouTube land can have access to that complimentary session with him. We are Tim and Becky Graff, your co-hosts and certified mind model coaches, along with Colin Jewett with us tonight. And the Blair Dunkley, the BDE is Blair's free gift to you. It's an opportunity to learn, experience, and practice mind models in a safe, real world environment. Mind models have helped us in every area of our lives, not only in business, but personally resolving an issue in our marriage within a couple hours, and to the navigation of grief and PTSD from a tragic accident in 2020, where we lost both of our young daughters. Mind models have allowed us to be more effective and increase our capacities and speed of recovery without traditional counseling. And we look forward to learning with you tonight and welcome you to the BDE. And then I will turn it over to you, Colin.
Thanks, Becky. Well, hello, friends. Tonight is the last episode in the Mind Model reboot series that we've been on since May. Feels like it's been about 3 weeks. It's actually been a few months, at least for me. If you're like me and you've missed a couple of them or you've forgotten, then I will do a really quick overview of what the mind models were that were discussed in those episodes. So I'll run through this super quick just to jog everyone's memory, and then we'll jump in. So we started with the foundations of mind models, how they work, then went to safety versus comfort, then ask versus tell, then naming and labeling, clarity versus certainty, general versus specific, effective versus ineffective, external versus internal, evaluation versus judgment, remember versus relive, self other situation, again, part two, risk, trust, honesty, and IBER. And then we are at the series recap today. So it'll be the end of that series. So I wanted to pose a question to the group, big question, kind of reaching all the way back in the memory banks to that first episode in May 6th for the series. How do you understand mind models?
Brent, what do you think?
Holy shoot, man. Oh, I'm already under unmuted. Okay. Um, no, mind models to me, they're the way we think effectively, the way we process information, the way we think effectively, that's if we do that, that's how we do it. But it's putting names and labels and identifying those and breaking them out as we go through them so we can see how they're used. Just as a general point of view, but they're fluid. They allow us to be fluid, to move and flow with situations, to evaluate and adjust quickly. So that way, and if we are stuck, to recognize we are stuck in a place where we're stuck, and then to move, what to do next, to move forward. Not just what to do, but how to do it. It's explain how these work and how to use them. So it's not just what they are, it's how they are used and how you can apply them and use them. So that's basically what I use them, what I think of my models as.
Mm. And Brent, I'm curious,
Yes.
how do you use, let's just jump to the first one, safety versus comfort for you personally. What would that look like?
I wouldn't say it's the one that comes up first for me, but the comfort is one that comes up more than safety.
Mm.
Um, Maybe safety's there, but if it's let's say in a thing if evaluating, I'm stuck, is it something that's I'm comfortable with, or looking at, is it is something as comfort, or if I'm stuck, am I seeing that as a safety in my, subconsciously viewing it as safety. So I'm not moving because I'm seeing it as it's something unsafe. It's risky, unknown, but I'm not moving because it's not just uncomfortable, it's unknown. So I'm subconsciously seeing it as it's something that's unsafe. So that would be the way I use that.
Got it. Which one comes up more for you? You said that one wasn't top of your stack.
No, the the three E's come up usually first, and then it's the self situation. Other is that's like the foundational one, but that's I would say the three E's are ones that I use
Got it. So
more often that
definitely
come up
circle
first for
back to
me.
you later in the call.
Yeah.
I've got a pin on Brent now for three E's in self situation other. Does anyone else use safety versus comfort frequently for themselves in their stack on a daily basis or regular basis?
I would say that I do.
Yeah,
Um, I think that there's a lot of times that my physiology is telling me one thing and my brain has to kick in and do some evaluation about, okay, what's actually going on here so that I don't fall into the trap of the story about a situation, being able to put context to it. Is it something that's uncomfortable and new? It's an opportunity to level up. a trigger or something that I don't really want to deal with that is going to be effective for me if I do, it really helps to put containers around what is safety and what is comfort and which one am I allowing to lead the charge right now, or even just be able to consider where it might move me. And it shows up in a variety of different places. Tim and I went on a hike today, and I'm stumbling around. I'm a pretty confident hiker. I can do things pretty well. But there was a moment for me as I like got a little bit dizzy and lost my balance that it was a very quick, like, is this an uncomfortable situation or is there a tendency to tip into something unsafe? But I have this skill set. I have practiced this a lot. And so I was very rapidly, probably seconds, been able to kind of put context to what it was and be able to make adjustments in what I was doing so that I was absolutely safe, even though I was maybe experiencing some uncomfortable sensations because I was exercising at 10,400 feet, which is a little different than when you're down at 5. It's just a little different on the body.
Hmm. You mentioned sensations. Do you experience comfort and safety differently in your body? Wow, Blair, just you got links coming out your ears
Sorry.
in the
Not
chat.
totally.
Well,
Um,
it's free stuff except for my book.
yeah,
Okay, that's on Amazon, and I can't give that away free.
yeah.
At
So
least I
sorry,
don't know how.
your question, so I'll come back. Thank you, Blair, for all of these. Those are great things. I'm just gonna read them out loud. So there's a link to Blair's book, The Ultimate Mind Hacking. It talks about different mindsets and different pieces in it. Again, it's a fantastic read to kind of get a good bearing on what these are. His 3 E's freebie with a masterclass again. Up there's Blair's book. He's showing it up. So if you're watching us on YouTube, you've got it there. Definitely recommend you get your hands on that. And then his 3 E's freebie with the masterclass again. That's Brent mentioned earlier that he refers to the 3 E's. And so this is a master class. We'll go a little bit deeper on that. We're going to touch on it later this evening. But again, a great opportunity to dig into that. Back to your question, Colin, you asked me, does my body experience safety and comfort differently? Is that what you
Yeah,
asked me?
yeah.
Yeah, I would say like comfort for me is having a cup of coffee, snuggle juice. It's comfortable. It feels soothing to me. Safety is more of a grounded experience. It's not so soft. It's more tactile. And I don't know if it just comes from a historical thing for me, but I don't have fight or flight. Like there's an absence of the angst when I'm truly feeling safe versus comfort. Does that make sense, Colin?
So, do you feel any sort of fight or flight when you're uncomfortable?
Yes. I would say
Oh,
that I
okay.
have
Interesting.
mushing going on when I'm uncomfortable, and that's how come safety and comfort is helpful for me to be able to delineate what is it that I'm feeling. I shared with Blair early on, I had this narrative that I was terrified of public speaking, terrified of
Mm-hmm.
public speaking. But the sensations that I was experiencing in my body was nervous excitement. But I had smushed that nervousness to being unsafe versus just uncomfortable. So there is that tacit for me in different situations where I would say that being uncomfortable is a level of fight or flight because I've habituated some patterns that I'm still working to kind of work through when those new things pop up.
Hmm. Yeah, that has been my experience, very similar.
Mhm.
Um, Not just public speaking for me, it was just even interacting with people in general. Even attending these calls. I remember some of the early ones, I was definitely more like activated just being on these calls and like, man, everybody has all this jargon that I don't understand yet, and it could be overwhelming. And I noticed myself getting into stress responses just being on these, interacting with people in public.
Mhm.
Well, I want to keep the recap moving. And Leslie, I would be curious to hear from you. How do you experience ask versus tell, and what does that look like in your communication with others?
Um, I'm trying to think of a recent incident where this has happened, and it's I can't identify anything in particular, but I know that I've certainly worked more on asking as opposed to telling in situations. Um, it's coming from a point where it was always very much tell. Um, because is just the situations, previous situations, and rabbit holes, maybe, I don't know. But certainly learning and discussing here in these evenings the difference between asking versus tell. Um, Asking is certainly a far better way to gain information and to find a direction uh, of being able to influence towards moving to a positive forward situation. Much
Have you
more than
noticed have you noticed that they feel different when you ask yourself versus tell yourself?
yes, yes. It's not as confrontational.
Hmm.
It's
Hold
not.
it. You just said not as confrontational, but you're doing it to yourself. So how is that less confrontational?
I'm not following.
Okay, Colin asked, when you ask questions of yourself or tell yourself stuff. Did I
Oh,
mishear that? But then you said it's
perhaps I misheard it because I didn't realize it was about myself.
yeah.
No,
I
it
thought it
still
was
made
about
sense to
situation.
me.
It
I
made
thought it was
sense to
about
me as well.
situation,
Yeah.
Hmm.
asking or telling myself. Well, that's a totally different perspective, isn't
Exactly.
it?
If you don't mind me interrupting just for a split second here, I was on a podcast with a podcaster named Rafaela, and we had a great conversation. So when her podcast comes out, I'll let you know. But it's about quarter lifers, people who are 25 to 35 years of age, is sort of her demographic, and the crises that people are going through in that age range. But, dealing with that, it was all about, instead of going with mindset, I talked to her and she started changing to perspective rather than mind. That's your mindset. That's how it's got come into here. But mindset, we behave to the meanings of our words. Our mind is set, mindset, no change. But perspective or perception, when we put that language in, all of a sudden, change is possible. In fact, it's almost mandatory. So, do we want to be like her demographic? She was sort of referencing herself and her demographic as feeling, you know, she's going after people that are 20 something to 35 that are high achievers. And there's a lot of pressure on that group, to perform. But if your mind is set, a lot of stuff is right, wrong, good, or bad. But if you put pressure on yourself by how you talk to yourself, then again, can you optimally perform? Like, well, I'm getting into trading. Can I trade optimally if I have pressure on myself to perform? Or do I want to look at the perspective I'm looking at it from and adopt a healthy, resilient perspective? Because never have I found 100% strategy in trading. And I'll say this in life. I have not found a absolutely 100% strategy in life. I found some pretty good ones. Well, with one exception, mind models is 100% of the time. That's the only one that I can truly say is 100%. Everything else, though, is percentages. You play the odds. So if you're playing the odds, you have to be resilient. Because if you're not resilient, then you're right, wrong, good, and bad. And if you fail, it's your fault. as opposed to, geez, I have to fail if I put it in terms of failing, or it has to be ineffective if I choose to put it that way. I can't get it right 100% of the time because the strategy doesn't allow for that. And if I back test it to, 67 or 80% of the time, or 82%, or even 90% of the time, I have to fail 3% to almost 40%. I have to fail. It has to not work. But did I do anything wrong? No. The system does not allow for life, does not allow for 100%, 100% of the time. Doesn't. It's not how life operates. So anyway, sorry for jumping in on your parade there, Leslie, but I thought I'd share.
That's good. That's valid, and yeah. In with trading, there's a lot of asking, a lot of asking, and there's also a lot of IBER.
There has to be a lot of IBER, intention, behavior, evaluation, result. Yes.
Every friggin' time you go to enter into a trade, it's staring you right in the face. You have to check it, and.
Plus, there has to be a ton of testing. And that's one of the things that I suggest to people every single time is go out and test. See if things work and run reasonable tests and evaluate your risk. Like, how much are you risking? You don't want to bet the farm. You want to bet maybe, not bet, but risk 1 to 2%. How come? Because then you live to fight another day or trade tomorrow. And a little bit of money can make you a lot of money if your strategy works, even, like even 51% of the time. Some of the games in casinos, they pay out a fair amount, but their payouts are based on a 51% 49. And if it is a 51-49, that thing still rakes in a pile of money. Huge, millions and millions. You don't need a lot. You just need it consistently, always leaning in your favor. And that's what the Reboot series does, is it leans your life in your own favor. You get to play the odds. You get to position yourself to tip the odds, tip the scales on your side.
I think what you just said is very powerful, Blair, as it relates to like how you frame it for yourself. I'm going to risk 1 to 2% and it may go wrong, and all the things could very easily be reframed by I'm going to invest 1 to 2% to test to see if what I'm working on is effective. The energy behind it is significantly different because of the retooling of the words that we use. And I think that this segues, I think, into your next question, Colin, as it relates to, and Blair's already said it. He says we behave to the meaning of words. So just the swap between risk 1 to 2% or invest 1 to 2% for whatever the back end thing is how you're literally thinking about it. Coming from a pace of, oh no, oh crap, this is gonna be bad and it's gonna be all the things, or hey, this is pretty cool. I actually get to do this. I've back tested, I've done the things from a trading perspective, but that nuance isn't quite so subtle when you understand the power of the words that we're using. So with that, Colin, I'm gonna hand it back to you.
Can you guys hear this printer running in the background?
No.
No. All right. Miracle of technology. It's so loud.
Noise canceling software.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, real quick, Blair, to your point about mindset and telling oneself, that's something I've really noticed with my coaching clients and the people I work with. Just this kind of glaring pattern stands out to me a lot now. Is you use the term shoulding on yourself. I hear you.
Let's be clear. It's shoulding.
Should.
Yeah,
Shoulding.
not shitting on yourself.
the effect is pretty similar, but
Yes. One is
I got
just a
something
little
there.
less stinky than the other.
I've got
yeah,
something there
Brandon.
that I witnessed this weekend. I went to my cousin invited me to a show, and there happened to be a podcast, but the people in the crowd and the gentleman up there, he's like, I have anxiety, and he said something about the people, and a lot of people cheered, and then the same with depression, and a bunch of people cheered. It was almost as if they were wearing it as a badge of honor. I was like, man, that's so ineffective. Like how these people's lives are going, and they're wearing it as a badge of honor. Like this is something they go through. And I'm like, well, if they're cheering about something, they're not that depressed. Outside, I'm like, I don't see them that depressed if they're out here excited and cheering about it. So it seems to me that there's some sort of disconnect, but there's little parts they may be depressed, but it seems that it's not as like the naming and labeling isn't effective for where they're at and what they're experiencing. So that's what I was getting at, seeing. I'm like, it seems like there's a misalignment with with their naming and labeling.
Yep.
So
Hmm.
yeah,
We're stuck, but at least we're stuck together.
yeah. But
Hey.
it was also alarming that there was
Hey.
like they were like excited that they were cheering for
Mm.
that. Like that's something they have. I was like, man, I don't know. I personally don't know where it was coming from, but like how they get to this point is somebody puts a label on them and they're like, yeah, that's me, that's who I am. I'm like, oh man, that seems like a way of keeping yourself stuck
Yeah.
through life and not being able to move forward. But
Well, Brent, that's a beautiful segue and ties together several things there, like the comfort and potentially felt safety of smushing there,
mm,
of being certain of one's names and labels wraps a few things together. And so I'm curious with naming, labeling, and clarity versus certainty, moving to those ones. Jane, I haven't heard from you yet. Yeah,
Well,
I'd love to hear
I
from
want to
you.
back up just one
Okay.
section though. I've actually met someone who I had asked, "Are you comfortable being depressed or don't you want to get better?" No, no, I know what to expect and I know where I'm at and I'm good.
Mm.
Okay. You know. So anyway, on to your question. Please repeat.
Yeah, I was curious, and what your experience that you just shared might relate to this, but what is your experience with clarity versus certainty?
Well, for me, because naming and labeling is very important to me. Being able to understand the meaning of the word. What Blair said earlier, we react, we respond to the meaning of our words. Sometimes they're certain that the word that they used is exactly what I will understand as the meaning.
Mm.
And that's not always the case. So I will ask, would you please clarify? Because I don't get it. Or just please clarify because I'm not understanding what you're trying to say. That has forward within our own household just by stepping forward with that. And I've mentioned this before, and I know that Tim likes this. When my husband says we need to replace the light bulb in the garage door opener, I come back with we you, we me, or we both of us. Because before, it was I always took it as, oh, that means me. We means he came up with this thought and I needed to go do it. When it's when it finally occurred to me at a point when I was really overwhelmed with just so much on my plate, and he did the we need to do this, it's just like, you know what? I need to clarify this because I can't do that. I
Mm.
cannot add one more thing on my plate. So when I asked the question, it made him pause to have to then decide, am I asking her to do this or am I throwing it out there as an idea so that I don't forget? And then she just always does this, or, that whole conversation started just because I looked for clarification and it made a huge difference. Um, in it made a huge difference in me not feeling as though I was doing everything and he was doing nothing. And that wasn't true. He was traveling at the time, but it helped him understand that I can't do it all. I am no longer a young, healthy, superwoman like I used to be. I mean, my mother always said that I always did too much. My sister always does too much for her husband, and that we need to knock it off. And she's not around to tell us that anymore. So, clarification. And I do that with my kids too. When they say something, I will ask the question back. And I think that in some ways, that whole bit of ask versus tell, that has helped me in my communication, other than me not being able to come up with how do I ask that as a question. That one
Mhm.
stumps me still. So being clear as to what it is I'm trying to ask. So that's where clarity versus certainty. I used to just ask questions. I ask questions all the time, but now I'm more thoughtful and in trying to ask a question that is clear so that the perspective is not skewed in a what the heck is that woman thinking to, versus, oh, she just doesn't understand what it is I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and Jane, how do you experience generalities versus specifics when it comes to communication?
Well, in communication, um, so being ADHD, that means I think very fast. I'll take in information and I'll think I got it, and then I'll realize that I don't got it. So I have learned when someone's giving me directions on how to get somewhere, I got to slow this sucker down because in general, I got an idea of where you want me to go. But the reality is I need to be specific. Left at the first light, left at the second light, right at the third light. That's a one-way street. I can't do that. What the heck? Where did I miss it? You know what I mean? So, yeah, being specific. And to me, I do mush some of these mind models together because I have to have them all in line. Because if it's not specific and it's not clear and I'm not asking questions, my communication, as you can tell, sometimes I talk fast. I hear fast too, and then I'll miss half of it. My dad used to say it was what do they call that? Selective hearing. No, it's not selective, it's skip hearing. You know, if you were doing Morse code, I would miss all the dots. I'm all dashes here.
You have something you wanted to add, Jacqueline?
Oh, yeah. If Jane, if you wouldn't mind if I asked you like a question, I just want to pull us back to like the ask versus tell. I can't see your face, so maybe I'll stand up and look at my camera here. Okay, so you asked the ask versus, well, my monitor is so much higher than my computer.
It's fine. It's fine.
I just want to see your face. Anyway, you mentioned, when you stop to ask a question of that person, that it created a pause in them. What I'd really
What?
like, it created a pause in them. A pause, like they
Yes.
stop for a moment and had a quick think. The one thing I'd like to point out is I thought that also created the same thing for you,
Absolutely.
rather than going into the tell, that little, oh, I need to ask a question, also created a pause for you. So that was very interesting about that, because I notice sometimes when I'm like trying to tell, to ask myself that, I kind of lost it, but you know what I mean? Like it slows me down because I like it's aware, notice, aware, and it's like, okay, and self-other in situation, what's my part in here, and then clarity versus certainty, like it's all.
So can I ask a question here?
Yeah.
Do you think that this turns it into a conversation instead of just a lecture when you talk, when you, I mean,
No.
for me, well, for me,
Absolutely it does. Absolutely, Jane. Because it gets back to the curiosity, right? You
Right.
become,
Well, yeah. I mean, the curiosity hits me, but when I ask a question, it slows down my thought process and it helps my thought process to
spot on.
catch up to what's being said. Now, that I didn't say before, but that is part of
Well,
the
that's what I was hoping to draw your attention to. Anyway, I'm done.
It's okay. I mean, I did the same thing after last week's episode. It takes me a couple of days to process everything that has happened, and
Well,
then
is
I
that
go back and
okay? Well, is that ineffective or effective?
well, it's effective for me, but it's no longer a
So,
conversation. It's now
so
just a, it's like, okay, how do I get this clarified, kind of thing.
yeah, I
So
know, but Jane, it sounded to me like you were like almost judging yourself when you were saying, "Well, it takes me."
Mm.
no, 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 that's not a judgment. That's just a observation of this is what
Okay,
happens.
well, I just wanted to check that out. So
Okay.
clarity.
It's part of me getting to know myself and understanding where
Yeah.
sometimes my brain is at.
Jackie, on my screen, when you're standing up, I I
Oh
have
God.
I have Brent's head on your shoulder. It's
I what?
it's just cracking me up. Brent is
It's like two bodies
like,
being
yeah.
squished together.
It's
Well,
a good thing they're wearing two different colors.
I,
But Brent, you dance well. You talk
Look,
well with your
You
hands.
dance well, Brent.
you happen to have a very feminine body, Brent.
oh, thank you. I'll take that as a compliment.
Yes.
So
So
Jackie just brought in evaluation judgment, which brings us back to you, Brent, because you brought that up earlier. And I'm curious, how do the three E's apply for you in everyday life? Bring it back to your process.
Oh, I use the effective versus ineffective on things that I that's the first thing I use. Like when I do something and I have the result, I go, man, was that effective? Instead of like, yeah, I used to be like, oh, was that right? Was that wrong?
Mm,
Like with the judgment piece, but it was like, oh, did that, most of the time it's like, well, did that work? Did it work or not work? Is where I usually, the wording I usually use, for the most part. Um, and that's the first one. And it's the, external, when I get a little bit more like with conversations or things if I'm, running through stuff in my head, like talking to myself, then I run into I'll use the, effective versus ineffective. Um, and then the external versus internal, where am I, is that internal, is that external? Where's that line, where's that lying? Is that just me on the inside? So I can know where it's coming from or where I have it. So then leads me to the evaluation versus judgment. Am I in the judgment piece side as well, or am I evaluating? So I can use that. And I mean, there's times I go, yeah, I'm internal and I'm judgment and I'm judging for sure, so
mhm.
it's not effective. So I go back, okay, then evaluate external and evaluate that situation. So there's an example of me using it as if, something that's not effective and using it to quickly move. So I'm not stuck in that spot where I beat myself up. It just builds. It's one judgment on top of another. And then, yeah, or if I get a little bit of worked up, something happens in a situation that I don't have control over, the same thing. I'll use the three E's there. Like, was that effective or ineffective? And, he says ineffective. And then like, oh, yeah, it's external because that's what's happening. The situation's going on. Identify what's going on. And yeah, it was a judgment, but I'm going to evaluate and say, I have no control over that. So that's not anything for me to worry about or to focus on. Yeah.
Brent, I noticed is interesting. You talked about how you used to say that's right, wrong, good, bad,
Mhm.
whatever. And when you switch into the three E's, you didn't just switch into that was effective, that was ineffective. You switched into what was effective about that, or was that effective? And so I noticed there was a switch from telling to asking, like baked into your process too,
Mm.
like kind of woven perfectly with what we were just talking about. I don't know if was that conscious just now when you
No,
made
that
that
was not
switch, or
conscious.
is
That was
that okay?
subconscious. Like
That's
I
just
just that's
yeah,
just
just part of your
that's just how they work
process.
together. I would say that's
Yeah.
effectively how they work effectively together, the ask versus tell in there. And I looking at that, you were repeating that it was in judging it was like the whole, like everything was the whole on to me. But in the evaluation piece, it was what worked, what things, like the
Mhm.
data, what was going on and what was working, what wasn't working.
Yeah,
So
so that also
I
brings
want
in
to, I
general
want
versus specific,
yeah.
and I was gonna say self other situation
to,
too. What were you saying, Blair?
I want to jump in here because you were talking about data, and I want to make sure that people understand that data is both information and emotion. Because when we take a look at it, um, the emotion that others have that you have is great information. It just happens to be emotional information, not cognitive. It's
Mhm.
emotive. And that's critical. Like when you're going forward with something and you understand what you're feeling, you can manage your feelings so effectively. That also came up on my podcast earlier today. I mean, I don't know of anybody else who's out there saying there's two types of feelings. I find behaviorally there are. And there's what feelings and there's why feelings. Why feelings almost exclusively have stories attached to them. What feelings are I what I'm feeling is frustrated. What I'm feeling is happy. It's feeling words and describing the feelings.
Mhm.
And when you describe what you're feeling and you don't attach it, because you can do feelings that are what, why, you start off saying, I'm frustrated because, and then the story, and that was what you're feeling and why you're feeling it.
Mhm.
Okay, is that effective for you? In some cases, it is. In a lot of cases, it isn't, because when you're saying you're frustrated, the because, and it's usually because and you're reacting to somebody else, and now all of a sudden you're blaming them and they're feeling attacked. So, but if you just own your own feelings and go, I feel frustrated, like that's it. And you can turn it into structured feedback, which we haven't done in a Coon's age here for years on the show. But literally we could go into, I feel frustrated when you do this behavior. You can give feedback with emotion in the feedback. But then you just state the behavior, not the consequence of why it does anything to you. You just state what that behavior is. And then all of a sudden, you see how you check in with that other person and how are you with that? So you check in with them to know the consequence of the behavior. And generally speaking, when people start learning that you're not attacking them, all of a sudden they can accept the information and you don't require them to change or not change. It's just to accept, and acceptance is neither, it's not, you're not taking the information that person says and saying I'm right or wrong, good or bad. There's no judgment. It's just, oh, that's your perception. That's your perspective of what I'm doing. Yes. Well, that's fascinating. I didn't think that somebody would view it that way. That's interesting. Now I can adjust my behavior or not. Thank you for sharing. That's, you know, many ways that you can accept feedback. I just thought I'd throw that in.
Yeah. And Blair, I've done that with myself as well. Where like, man, ineffective behavior, like I feel frustrated about this. Like even like with myself going through, like if I'm in a judgment piece, I'm like, man, and go to beat myself up, like, man, I'm frustrated that this is what I did, this behavior. I'm like, okay, so I'll run it that way instead of just like, man, and beat myself up with that emotions or the reaction to to something and just keep going at it.
Well, that's where
Yeah.
the three E's are great because you're into that judgment, but now you can go back to effective versus ineffective, or what works or didn't work. Same word or same almost identical meanings of words, effective, ineffective, or works or didn't work. You can swap the two of them out. When I did my research, there was negligible difference.
Yeah, and that what you said was you mentioned blaming, and that was quick. Like
Yeah.
you're quick. I was like, you're quick to get into that judgment piece. It ends up being quick to blame something, situation, others, instead of evaluating, okay, what am I doing with the
Yeah.
behavior? It's effective for me. It's always on the external, pushing it outside of me. So that would be that
And
quickly can turn into.
losing the ability to control change because you can only change
Mhm.
yourself. But if you push it outside of you and blame it on everybody else, you've lost
Mhm.
control.
Mhm.
And now you feel like a victim because you're
Yeah.
structuring it as a victim.
Jacqueline.
What's up, Jackie?
Brent, I just wanted to
Mhm.
say something about what you said. What it brought up in my mind is I just noticed that. Oh, no, you're not there. I hate looking at myself when I start chatting. Anyway, I've just noticed that you know how you go through the internal, external type of thing and all of that. I just noticed that I actually get to that, and the words that I hear in my head is, "Well, that didn't work," and then I instantly check out, am I in judgment or what's the other one?
Evaluation.
Evaluation.
Yeah, and then quick check, and then off I go again. So that's very interesting because like they do speed up so quickly. Sometimes you don't even notice you've done them until you've actually arrived on the spot. So I just wanted to say that I believe that time is going to get smaller and smaller with a little bit of um, practice. If you have the opportunities to do such a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Brent, I wanted to circle
Yeah.
back to you again with self, other, and situation too. You mentioned that as being part of your go-to stack, and I'd like to hear from Tim on this too, because Tim, I know this is one of your favorites. How do you use self, other, and situation?
Sorry, it's starting to rain's picking up, so
Oh,
it's
okay.
a little muffled over here, the mic. So it's yes, okay, so self-situation other. I use it
Yeah.
and it's not like the first one I use, but the second, like it's like quick, it's in
Hmm.
there. Like it's in there. So it's usually okay, it's going on, then it's like, okay, the situation quickly, and then it's me and then other. So that's usually like, okay, identify quick what is it if it's not like effective or ineffective, if it's effective, like what is it that's effective, the situation, others, what's of that, and myself, what is effective, what's working, what's not working. And then that's how they're intertwined in there with the three E's. So it's looking at all those three pieces together.
Got it. So you kind of weave those back and forth,
Hmm.
back and forth. Tim, is that similar for you?
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, Brent, the way you described that was very similar. It's basically a quick evaluation process for me.
Hmm.
It's, because basically in everything that we face, there is ourselves and our role in it. There is the situation and the others that are involved or the others that it will impact. And so it's more of that quick evaluation process of, okay, what is the situation? What is my role? What can I control within the situation with
Hmm.
the others involved? What is their role? And it's kind of that quick evaluation process of where am I, if you will, and what is assessing the room or the situation so that then, you can be as effective as possible as you move forward through the situation, working with the others involved. And, that's kind of the self situation other. I go there. And then I usually, there's the question of, if there's a resistance there to whatever the situation or what's going on, it's, as safety versus comfort comes in there for me is, okay, am I safe in the situation? Okay, yes, I'm just uncomfortable with whatever is going on. okay, so what might I do to lean in? So it's kind of that it's self situation other, and then it's safety versus comfort. And then usually that gives me and asking the questions. So that ask versus tell, asking myself there through that process usually gets that forward process, that movement for me. Um, that's kind of the behind the scenes of what's going on inside. Usually when I approach whatever it is that I'm going into.
And you
I
mentioned
got
that
something
being,
there.
yeah, go ahead, Brent.
Is how we separate these out like and we look through them, but behaviorally they're so closely intertwined and use them and how they operate. So that was like I was running through. I'm like, okay, try to separate it, but behaviorally they're intertwined, and that's how you were explaining that, Tim. That was what was coming up for me too. I was like, okay, it's showing how everything is intertwined and how you use the mind models, and they're always operating together. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, like certainty, judgment,
Mhm.
tell all seem to kind of track together versus
Mhm.
ask and clarity and evaluation. Tim, you mentioned where am I? And I was curious for you, is that typically in space or in time or both?
Space or in time?
Time, space, real or imaginary?
Okay, when you put it that way.
RFM.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, it's in the real, it's in the moment, yeah. So it's, well, I guess, gosh, when I think about it, really, I mean, it could be either.
So when you ask yourself that question, Blair just gave us two axes, basically real imaginary versus what was the other one he said?
Time and space.
Time and space. Okay, so it's three-dimensional, I suppose. Are you primarily operating like versus like internal, external, real, imaginary, or where am I like literally in this room, this space, or past, present, future? What are the primary ones that come up for you?
I think what's going on is it's kind of in a sense, it's all of them wrapped
Mm.
into. So maybe I've got some smushing going on there, but yeah, and it's also, I think, very situational as well. Um, but yeah, without getting specific and really, is this time and space? Is this real imaginary? And because this is actually very helpful walking through this questioning process, because I think I was taking it as very general and all of it wrapped in one instead of separating them out. So yeah.
Hmm. I wonder if it's actually smushing or if it's more stacking. You're just doing all of them at the same time, or if you're blending them together. I don't know, just food for thought. I'm curious, which kind of
Huh.
segues into remember versus relive, because I experienced that very much as time-based. Oh, Jackie waving at me. What's up?
I'd like to make a comment, please. I've noticed something else. Um, it's like the internal process, or like what I say to myself. Like when I'm about to do something and I start to feel really anxious, um, I know that I'm challenging my comfort. So what I say is, if I do such and such, meaning the behavior, will I feel safety or comfort? Now, if I'm like going in my body, oh yeah, that's no problem. Well, I'm in my comfort, so stop challenging myself. But if I feel very unsettled, I know I need to do it, or at least to feel fast falling forward until I do it.
Yeah.
Mm. So you use that as kind of a do loop or litmus test, whether to move forward or not.
Uh, it's more like evaluating. It's a whole bunch of things. It's like, where am I? What am I feeling? And basically, like, back, where am I? Is this real reality? Am I reliving something? Am I remembering something? Like where am I in like space and time?
Mhm.
More so, I think. Um, but I'm not sure if it's the question seems effective for me. Like if I do this behavior, how will I feel? Like it's like I'm kind of like projecting into the future and putting the past into the future and all of that. So I wonder, Blair, you have any feedback on that type of question? Because it's almost like a reverse feedback formula. For me, that's where I'm going in my head. I'm not saying that it is, but it's like if I do the behavior, will I feel, and it's specifically around safety versus comfort, nothing else, just safety versus comfort.
My thing here is I would try and figure out a way to do it as small as possible rather than asking myself a question, will I feel safety or comfort? And I'd go, I'd rather just test it for me personally and say, okay, I may be safe, I may be uncomfortable, I may be unsafe, but I don't see anything that is a threat or risk to my health, well-being, or life. Therefore, I am going to test.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'd rather test than not test.
Oh yes, I definitely usually test because either way the outcome is going to be, if I'm feeling too comfortable, then I know I need to do something different.
Correct.
If
And
I'm
so,
in
but
safety, challenging my safety, then I know I need to do it also, unless I'm at risk of physical.
except when I'm doing something that I've already tested and I found, oh, I've got a strategy that I know works. So if I have strategies that I know work a percentage of the time, a good percentage of the time, like all of the mind models, I don't feel like it's that big of a risk.
Yes, exactly. Like
So
when you're in
uh,
that evaluation, sorry. Yeah.
exactly, but I do feel that it is a risk because it may not work in this scenario. But it's not that big of a risk because I can accept that risk as not working this time to see, oh, that's this time. So
Mm,
I'm still risking, but it's not as risky. Like the first time I do that sort of thing, it's very risky. But the 50th time I do it, there's still some risk, but I go, I trust my process. And
and
when I'm
trust myself. Trust
no, not quite. Not just, I would not say that there's some trust of myself, but I try and externalize that and go, I have identified a process that I'm using. Now, I like to stay back and stay as observational as I can and see how I feel and how I behave. I
yes.
try and take, a third party view of myself in that and say, oh, okay, even when it fails, what can I learn?
Yeah.
Because those are some of my best learning situations. And now I've collected the data, knowing that I'm risking a little bit, not a ton, but something, and it didn't work. And that risk of risking a little bit gives me both a thing that didn't work and a huge gain for me because all of a sudden it didn't work and I feel blessed with a failure because it's something that I can now see and I can learn from.
Yeah,
Those
it's like the learning.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I developed the mind models because I just, you know, I'm dyslexic, so I screwed up everything. And so it was completely okay for me to screw up. I knew that I was screwing up, but it was okay. I didn't view it as a judgment. I viewed it as I get to evaluate this. I get to figure out what works and what doesn't work and where I can improve, which is huge.
So are there any keywords and phrases that you use, like when you're in safety versus comfort to try to trigger that, or is it what do you notice first when you're like in a safety versus comfort scenario?
To be perfectly honest with you, I go into my feelings first because my feelings sort of bubble up in those
Yeah,
scenarios first.
yeah,
And so I collect those and I try and describe what I'm feeling.
yeah.
Like today, earlier today, I got introduced, well, I got a phone number, a mobile phone number, cell phone number of a very major billionaire that is a public person, and I am going to try and reach out to him and see what happens. Just see if I can build a relationship and see if I can help in his business somewhere. So that is an opportunity. Now, what happened is I got lots of things percolating inside of me that are worrisome because this is either a big opportunity, but maybe it's a big risk. But the bigger risk is not doing anything.
Yes. And when you're saying like I've got all of this stuff like kind of percolating inside of me, to me, what that describes in my, if I was doing that was I'm in my comfort zone and I'm recognizing this percolation is all opportunity, and where am I? I'm in
Exactly.
zone. Yeah.
And
Okay.
so now I need to go and act on it while I set up a structure. The person that gave me the number of this guy is a friend of him, of his, and I'm waiting for an email introduction. And once I do that, then I'm going to follow up.
Well, let's keep us updated.
Well, we'll
Mhm.
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Blair, I think that's the first time I've heard IBER and risk trust honesty woven together like that, articulated, where it seems like you were evaluating the effectiveness of behaviors based on changes to the triangle.
Hmm.
Did I hear that? Yeah,
Yes, you did.
I hadn't thought of it that way before. It's really interesting. Makes perfect sense. I could definitely see that coming into play with interpersonal relationships too, of I'm
Big
going to attempt to increase the trust in this relationship, test this. Was it effective or ineffective? Did the triangle shift? Did it shift in the way I was expecting or not? Yeah,
Maybe nothing happens whatsoever. Maybe I don't
nothing.
even get through. Maybe his cell phone's got blocks for only known numbers. Who knows? I
Hmm.
don't know until I call. But I'll wait until I get CC'd on the email before I call because I don't want to be a blind person hijacking somebody. So,
Well, we will probably move into the wrap up shortly here, but we covered a lot of, or recovered a lot of ground here. And I just want to open up a little bit of space if anyone had inspired thoughts during this conversation that they haven't had an opportunity to share yet.
Are we going to continue the recap next week to cover the rest of the subjects that we haven't got to yet?
I think on this call, we actually
We
reviewed everything from the
Oh, okay,
past.
so I want to go
Yeah.
back. So can I ask so what do you guys call it when you I have a question and it pertains to IBER, intention behavior
Mm.
evaluation result.
yep.
And like I said earlier, sometimes it takes me a while for things to gel and then the questions come later. And I was so I printed out from last week's thing the definition of procrastination. And so when I was rereading through the notes, and what my notes and whatnot, and it kind of hit me. Procrastination, um, it's not a time management issue, it's an emotional regulation problem rooted in a specific brain circuit. And before it said that, it mentions that, in procrastination, it usually has an emotional element or emotional charge to it. And of course, that didn't hit me until I was rereading the definition and looking at it. And then I suddenly went, okay, so what happens, or how do you process an intention behavior when and then of course your desired result, when your emotional charge is bigger than your desired result? That's my question.
That's where you have to evaluate.
Okay.
Okay, because if your emotional charge is out of control,
Well, what if it's not out of control? It's just big.
is
Okay.
it an effective emotional charge?
Well, I'm going to throw out the one that I struggled with, was grief after spending so much time taking care of my mom when she was
Right.
not well, and then of course her passing. Grief is a normal, natural, human emotion.
Correct.
And there is so the first stage in grief is that stage where you kind of go into this numb state, and that's so you can process and do things after that initial
Yep.
loss.
Yep.
Okay. But then the emotions do kick in, and then you have to go through the other stages. Well, when you're going through some of those other stages, some of them, there's a process that it goes through. Your emotions just do. And I don't ever remember going through the anger stage at my mom, because I mean, she was 93. How can I be angry for her for dying when that's what she's...
I've gone through that
I
stuff
know.
not thousands, but literally hundreds of times.
Right.
And with clients, and not just with myself, but with clients. And you're right. Those stages of grief, some psychologists or people out there say that's what they are. And I go, bullshit. They're not.
Okay, but and I'm just gonna do a supposed thing. For
Sure.
some people, being able to recognize those stages kind of helps you say, okay, I'm getting through this.
Exactly.
But when you're
just because anger wasn't there doesn't mean that the rest of them are invalid, by the way.
Well, absolutely. They are valid. It's just going,
Correct.
okay, do I recognize where I'm at?
Exactly.
And then looking at some of the procrastination things, when that grief is still there and there is that emotional charge, because, I've attached the grief to a particular task, and going, okay, every time I go to start the task, I feel overwhelmed. And is that because, I don't care what the because is, plowing through and just saying, okay, do I just ignore how I feel? Because the
Can I
desired
just ask
result
you a
just isn't
simple
strong
question?
enough.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, you may.
Is ignoring how you feel in that specific situation effective for you or ineffective? Or is it more effective or less effective for you to ignore it?
I think at first, I go back to the evaluation and naming and labeling. I didn't know what it was.
Correct.
Once I got to the point where I said, okay, I'm now starting to understand that somehow I've tied grief to this particular task. And I've told myself, well, that's no excuse for not getting this done. However, what should have, what could have taken me,
Okay,
40 hours to
2 seconds.
accomplish.
Right there, you pivoted from an evaluation into a judgment.
Well, no, I'm still evaluating in
No,
that.
you're not. You're going that, that's no excuse. The second that you went into saying that's no excuse, that's you judging yourself.
Okay.
And saying you are not evaluating, and I'm saying, hold it. How can you be fair with yourself if you're giving
over past that?
That's like, is that balanced, fair self-evaluation?
I guess not.
Well, think about it. If somebody else was saying that, would you see this as balanced, fair self-evaluation?
No, because I have an emotional response right away. I'm saying, who are you to decide that for me?
Yeah, exactly. So all of a sudden, you're now beating yourself up unnecessarily for something that you didn't give yourself time to grieve through.
Okay, so then I go to the next part of I'm still facing the same task, but what I would estimate realistic versus real should have taken me 40 hours to do if I just sat down and just did it straight. And of course, that's not realistic. Okay, but
Bingo. It's not realistic. So again, that's a judgment.
okay, but where I'm trying to get to is even when I start on something, I can only I find that I'm only sticking to it for about 30 to 40 minutes or sometimes 5 minutes. And then I'm going, I'm
Perfect.
overwhelmed. I can't do it.
Perfect. Perfect.
And that's okay.
Ah, you know what? How do you think I got through my dad's coma?
Well,
It
that's
was
the reason I'm
literally, I
asking
had
you.
to get it down to like 30 seconds at a time.
Wow. Thank you.
Okay. Like, and then I said, okay, I'll do that right now. Like, I'm going to just focus on this for 30 seconds. And that's it. And then I go, okay, I did 30 seconds. Now I'm going to try to double that to a minute. And then I got up to 5 minutes. Okay, pretty quick. But after 5 minutes, I hit a brick wall for 5 minutes for like 2 days because I was testing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just found out what worked and what didn't work. And then all of a sudden, 2 days later, I could do like 20 to 25 minutes because I said, it's okay to just do this for 5 minutes and then take a break and walk away.
Wow.
Because I was kind to myself because my situation in my life was horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to make horrible decisions that I didn't want to have to make because my dad was in a coma. Okay, and I still had to get this stuff done in a reasonable time frame, and a reasonable time frame with me not having gone through my dad's thing would have been an hour, and instead of like a week. And I go,
Oh,
is if I was talking to a client, what would be my reasonable expectation? And that's where I take it out of myself and I go, if they can do just this one thing in 5 seconds and then park it for, I don't care if it's the rest of the day, but hopefully they can get back to it in an hour or two, then that's completely okay. And I don't know how many people, we dealt with a lot of death and die. I felt like the angel of death some days at Life Skills College because I dealt with people with death and dying issues, usually not them, but occasionally it was, including a female Anglican minister that came up to me when I was in my like 21 years old or 20, no, I think I was 23 at the time. And she told me she had inoperable throat cancer and that she was going to die in a matter of months before she told her husband because she wanted to talk to me about that. And she was really pissed off at God. And she wanted my input, a 23-year-old dealing with a female Anglican minister. Hello, I got like that's being working through this stuff and going what's fair and balanced given the situation, and then remembering to ask questions. Are they being fair with themselves? Or are they beating themselves up and then blaming it on God or blaming it on themselves because God did this to them and saying, if I was a parishioner of yours, what would you be telling me? And that just like light bulb moments for her. And she finally became kind to herself. And she stopped beating herself up because you got to realize these things, this too shall pass, including life. Okay. And when you put it in life and death terms, there's a lot of clarity in that. And do you want these moments to be your last, or would you rather focus on something else? How do you want to focus on it? Do you want to beat yourself up, or do you want to do the best that you can given the circumstances? And that's the question I asked myself. Blair, did you do the best you could given the circumstances of your father? And I went, generally, yeah. Occasion, very occasionally, no, because I'm human. I screwed up. But I'd say that's like somewhere around 95 to 97% of the time, I was fine. I did a good job. And yeah, I fucked up a few times. Okay? That's life. That's me being human. And I go, is it okay to be human? Yes. So have a little bit of grace with yourself, Blair. Just give yourself room. You're going through hell. This isn't ending anytime soon. So you better bloody well figure out how to accept this, because other than going down and putting a pillow over my dad's head and wrecking my life and ending his, which was completely illegal. Now it's legal in Canada. You can petition the courts and get that kind of thing if there's no chance. And there was no chance because that's what happened for, 14 years. He was in a coma. And he didn't want to be there because he had said he was relieved because a friend of the family had cancer. It was Fred Smith at the time, and he died of cancer. And my dad kept on saying, I'm so glad I have a heart condition because I'll go quickly. I don't want to go through um, what Fred went through. And Fred only went through about 6, 7 months of it, not 14 years. Dad went through it for 14 years. Okay, so give yourself some grace. It's okay. Just because you could do it under different circumstances, that's fine, but get it to the circumstances. You're okay. You're doing the best you can, and the best you can is getting through it. For me, it was 5 seconds at a time to start off with.
I appreciate that. That just pegged me up to a 10 for tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, you're
That's my
very,
wrap
very
up.
welcome. And listen how you are with this now. Your tone of voice, your comfort with yourself, just shot way up. Like you're all the angst that you had in your voice gone. It's just like you're comfortable now. Like we have to remember to care for ourselves as well, not just everybody else. Put your oxygen mask on first before you take care of others. Okay? And I'll tell you from personal experience, it is not easy to do. It really is incredibly tough.
Are you still watching this?
To put that oxygen mask on first. Okay? Sorry,
All
we
right.
just.
Jane, how are you with this?
Calm. I feel calm.
You sound calm.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Leslie popped off the call, I think. No, he didn't. He just shut off his camera.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Let's we're moving to wrap up real quick. We've got just a few minutes left, everybody. So with wrap up, just your one big takeaway for tonight and your number of the experience. We've covered a lot of material tonight, so I know it's kind of tough to pick that one thing, but if we can move into the wrap up. Leslie, would you like to to start us off?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, certainly a lot covered tonight in wrapping up or reviewing the recap. It's 9.5 for me tonight. There's just so many things that were said along the way that have been helpful, and yeah, lots to re-noodle.
Lots to read. Love it. Thank you for your inputs tonight, Leslie. We appreciate your leaning in and the things that you've shared. Brent, would you like to participate in the wrap up?
Yeah, I would. I It was the personal experiences that was great. So we did the recap, but it was great to have the experiences and how people use the mind models that we went over, and how they worked, and how they were different people used them in different situations, and the examples of how we used them. But it was, we try to pinpoint one, but it was like all of them together when you're rolling through it. So how they're all intertwined, and they use, behaviorally, that you use them together. Um, and as well, when we went over the past, was like how sometimes we would think we went over some things that were ineffective to do, but like into some situations they're effective to use, like telling. There are situations, depending on the situation, that it is effective to use. You know, so as an example, so that was great as well through the reboot series. So I give tonight a 9 for me.
Thank you, Brent.
Hmm?
Jacqueline just popped into the chat. 9 for me, feeling fabulous. Lots of updating for me as to where I am. Great questions, Colin. Awesome. Thank you for putting that in there, Jacqueline. We appreciate your comments tonight and your participation. So thank you. Jane, your wrap up, my
I
dear.
kind of did my wrap up. Well, at the end of when Blair was speaking, but before you officially started the wrap up.
You had mentioned a 10.
Yeah, I did that at 10. So, yeah.
Any
Anyway.
other last comments or anything for me?
Well, I did enjoy the evening. I did enjoy, what I call a round robin discussion, of different things, because bringing in different perspectives helps me continue to learn. And, uh, you know, the comment, you know, Blair's comments of basically stop judging yourself, put your oxygen mask on first. You know, these are the things that I forget that I'm still learning, and giving myself permission to chunk it down even into 30 seconds is like, oh, I'm feeling pretty good about that 5 minutes now. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Jane. And if I may, it was a 10 for me tonight. And really, my biggest takeaway was your question and the conversation that you were having with Blair there at the end, Jane. Very powerful stuff. I can relate so much. When we were going through our grief, and we would ebb and flow between the different stages of grief. And I've dealt with this already. How come I'm here again? And that judgment would start to creep in, and I find myself going down that judgment rabbit hole, and just allowing myself that grace and saying, you know what? It's what I'm feeling right now. It's okay. I'm going to allow myself to feel this for these few minutes, and then, pivot, and just allowing myself that grace and being gentle with myself. And I know, Becky can relate to this as well. We ebb and flowed through this so much. So I just, yeah, such great stuff. And just seeing you go from the judgment language to just the calm and the evaluative state that came over you, like, it was just powerful. So that's so thank you, Jane. Colin.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, I echo what you said. And thank you, Jane, for being vulnerable and sharing where you're at.
Mhm.
For me, yeah, something that Brent said really helped me name and label something that I've been doing but didn't notice, which is a quick plug for what we're jumping into starting next week, which is an Nanpoo. By the way, mini series starting with an Nanpoo. But yeah, um, Brent, you talked about feedback and giving feedback to yourself. And I had never thought of the feedback formula as applied to myself, and the fact that you can actually kind of do a self fill-in, which is very strange to think about, but it does work that way. And so I hadn't labeled it that way before, but that added some clarity for me. And yeah, everything at that end conversation with Jane and Blair made that 9.5 for me tonight.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you for leading the discussion.
Yes.
Becky.
9.6, a rich discussion. Again, everyone, thank you so much for sharing your perspectives and how you see and use the different concepts that we've covered. Brent, you share some amazing in-depth things, the way that you see it, and it adds so much to these calls. And Jane, I will echo, thank you for being open and asking for what you really needed on this call,
Yep.
so that we could be here to support you through your discovery of how you might move through what you're experiencing with a bit more grace for yourself.
Yep.
Because again, mind models are skills that we can apply to ourselves. We're not exempt from the fair and balanced. We're not exempt from the clarity and the care and concern. And it's important for us to remember that, especially we're in new territory. Anytime you're experiencing something, it is new. You've never been in this space before, ever. Your hair is different lengths, your skin's got different skin cells. You've grown something since last night before you went to bed. Okay. Or chopped
Or
it down.
shortened it.
Okay. But that's one of the things I'll just offer for everyone listening is the awareness that you can't actually functionally do something exactly the same has given me so much freedom to give myself grace and kindness that I'm not doing this again. And maybe similar states, but there's things that are changed. So it gives me permission to get curious about what I might need to do differently to make it through whatever the thing is currently going on for myself. And that can be a very powerful tool to remember that you're not stuck in your past mistakes per se, but maybe your process has an opportunity for an update.
Yeah. Awesome.
So that's me.
Thanks. And Blair, your wrap up, sir.
I did that podcast earlier today, and Rafaela was saying, sometimes I come back and I see myself doing it the same way. And I interrupted her. And I said, we behave to the meanings of words. And when you say that it's the same, there is no room for change. So let's take a look at it and call it similar. And yeah, it is certain, and it locks you in. We need to get clarity, and we need to see small differences, because that small differences gives us the ability to shift, to hope, to perceive. And that's where she jumped on. Right. My mindset was set because I talked about the meanings of words and mindset. We set our mind to look at things for certainty. And back in the day, in the 1800s, where mindset actually came into play, that's exactly what was needed back then, was setting a new way of what to do and what to believe. But that worked back then. It doesn't work now. So now we have to update because life is changing. The speed of change is unbelievably fast. I mean, this week alone, there were I'm just using ChatGPT in AI terms, two major update announcements to ChatGPT, let alone all the other AI stuff that's out there that's happening too. It's like, oh my gosh. Two major life impacting, life changing models. And our ability to get flexible and adaptable increases our ability to be resilient. But if we're calling everything the same, I'm sorry, we're stuck. I'm doing the same thing again. Well, no, start noticing smaller shifts because those small shifts matter. And Jane, when I shared with you, I had to get it down to the smallest of small because I was crushed by my dad's condition and I needed to claw my way back. And I was trained in mindset, and my mindset was broken. So I needed to do things that were incremental, and I couldn't manage much more than 5 seconds at a time. You know, that's where that whole counting thing comes from. My mom sitting down beside me when I was like 3 years old, having, you know, night terrors, and her asking me, "Are you okay right now?" After she calmed me down. Yes, count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are you still okay? Yes. Then count to 10. And that counting held me in the present. And I was okay in the present. And that's where I learned that if I can manage myself with what is, not what I want it to be, but what is, and accept that for now, I can change my is to make it incrementally a better is. Like even my health, this is what is. How can I do something different? Like my hip flared up today. My leg that has the hip replacement in it was not behaving nicely today, and there was lots of pain. So what I decided to do was not over exercise it and go for a walk afterwards. And I'm going to do the little walk, not the 1 kilometer walk that I had been doing before. How come? Because I don't want to risk exacerbating, but I don't want to not do something. Now, even if I walk to the end of the block and back before I do the loop around my building, that's good enough because I made the attempt. So it's making things incremental and dealing with what is. And that's it. Turmeric and black pepper, castor oil. Okay, thank you, Jackie. Do I eat it? Do I put it into a poultice? What the hell do I do? Turmeric.
I was typing it. Okay, so the turmeric you want to do with black pepper, and you boil water, put some lemon juice, crush up some garlic and ginger if you want. It's really good with lemon. And then the it's inflammation, right? That's making you uncomfy.
No, it's actually very, very, very tight muscles from surgery.
Ah, well, all of that stuff and above, and arnica gets everything circulating, and that's what you
Okay.
need is circulation.
Thank you.
Get out.
Thank you, my dear. It's appreciated. Anyway, for me, it's a 9.5 tonight. Very good night. And Jane, thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Blair. And I will hand it off to
Okay.
Becky to take us out.
All right, you guys, thank you again for another wonderful 90-minute Tuesday night. Please make sure that you join us next Tuesday. We're here every Tuesday for the Blair Dunkley experience. Oh, am I still? Okay, sorry. I thought my microphone went off. So we're here every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Mountain, 9 p.m. Eastern. So if you want to join us live, we would love to have you here. There's a link for you to be able to get on our on with this. If you go to Blair Dunkley, let's see, Blair, where did it go? Sorry.
Go to blairdunkley.com. Oh, just 2 seconds. It's in my chat.
rewiringthemind.com/weekly webinar. There it is, you guys.
Correct.
Sorry about that. We'd love to have you on so that you can experience what it's like to have discussions like these to explore the mind models deeper. So we would love to have you here. Please go to rewiringthemind.com/weekly webinar so that we can meet you and have a conversation. If you're more comfortable right now watching from YouTube, please make sure you comment, like, and subscribe so that you can continue to get the notifications of when the new episodes are dropping, and also please comment so that we can see what you're experiencing with the sessions that we are having. Another reminder, again, if you enjoyed what you heard tonight and you want to go deeper, Blair has an opportunity for you to get all historical and ongoing notes from the Blair Dunkley experience, starting with 318 onwards. So we're at 39 episodes this far, and you can get that at blairdunkley.com/BDE-insider notes. And we look forward to seeing you guys next time. See you next Tuesday, again, 7 p.m. Mountain, 9 p.m. Eastern. Have a wonderful rest of your evening or day, wherever it is you're tuning in from, and we'll see you next week.
Till next